Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Pioneers of New Earth from Anachrony's Classic expansion. Let's get rolling. So I'm all set up now to teach you how to use the Pioneers of New Earth module in Anachrony. So as in my other Anachrony module rules refresher videos, I will start with a very brief overview, and then I'll go over compatibility, so which modules are and are not compatible with Pioneers of New Earth. Then I'll go over setup instructions, and then I will go into detail about how the module works, the actual mechanics of it. Then I'll tell you how to use this module in solo play, and then I'll wrap it all up. So there are chapter markers below if you'd like to jump to one of those points, but let's get going, and I'll start with the very brief overview. The Pioneers of New Earth module allows you to power up your suits, your exosuits here. So you can upgrade them and make them more powerful and give them sensors, and then you use these powerful suits to go out into the outback and go on adventures. So these adventures are allowing you to explore sort of the world around the World Council, and as you explore that area, you could pick up some really nice upgrades and bonuses, but you can also run into trouble out there, so that's what you can expect to see. So let's go over real quickly here compatibility for this module. And Pioneers of New Earth is compatible with just about everything. The two caveats are, of course, if you're playing solo, this is only compatible with Chronosis, not with the Chronobot, but that's going to be the case with all of these modules. And secondly, the rulebook says that it is not recommended to combine Pioneers of New Earth with the Doomsday module, which I went over previously. Now, there's no mechanical gameplay reason why you couldn't combine them, and an explanation is not really given for why you wouldn't want to. Yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I can't think of a reason why you couldn't combine them if you really wanted to. So next we'll talk about setup. When you are using the Pioneers of New Earth module, the first thing you're going to need is this adventure sideboard. And I'll go over what all this stuff on the board is during the details section, but set up the board, just place it next to the main board, and then you're going to have two stacks of adventure cards here. One of them says 5+ and one of them says 10+. Shuffle up each of those stacks individually and then place them on their respective spots on the board, where it's indicated. And then finally, you will need this power die, adventure die. That's an adventure die. Place the adventure die just right there on the spot for the die. And then there's one of these reference cards. It's double-sided, but it's the same on both sides. Just place this somewhere near this adventure sideboard where everybody can see it and have access to it. And then there is a Most Adventures Endgame Condition card. Go ahead and shuffle this into the other Endgame Condition cards for when you draw 5. So this is one of them. Or if you're using a condition draft variant, include this one. I'll talk about solo play more later, but if you're playing solo, there is a Most Adventures card that you can use with the Chronosis as well. And then finally, everybody gains the exosuit upgrade board that's matching their path. So for the moment, let's look at the path of progress. Now you'll notice that these are all single-sided. This is, it's got some nice artwork on the back, but there is no symmetrical side and asymmetrical side. They're all asymmetrical by default. And again, we'll talk about solo later, but if you're playing against Chronosis, there is a double-sided exosuit power-up board or upgrade board that you give to Chronosis as well. So I'll talk more about that in the solo section. But that's it for setup. It's really not too difficult. So let's get into the details of how to play this module. I'm going to start by talking about exosuit power and just upgrading your exosuit, and then I'll talk more about the sideboard after that and how you use that exosuit power and how you use the sensors and what they're for. But first, let's just talk about the things you can do with your exosuit. So on your little board here, you've got 2 new worker actions. So there's this action here where you place any one worker, and when you place a worker there, you can spend one of the resources listed below. So there's multiple slots here. So you can see on the path of progress here, I can place a worker there and then place a titanium on top of one of those 2 titanium spots. There's 1 spot for uranium and then 2 spots for gold. So worker type doesn't matter. So let's just say I place a worker there and I'm going to spend 1 titanium. So I put a titanium on one of the spots that's there. That titanium is now considered spent. I can never get it back, but it remains on that spot permanently. So that spot is occupied. And now for the rest of the game, this titanium is giving my exosuit +3 exosuit power. That's what that symbol is. It's a little fist going like this. That's exosuit power. And then during the cleanup phase, you retrieve your workers just like normal. So these can be placed in any order, but they are permanent. So, as I said, +3 exosuit power for the rest of the game. So if I filled up these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots, that would be +15 exosuit power. But that is quite a lot of power. But it would take a lot of resources and at least 5 eras to be able to do that without other interventions to be able to get the worker off of that space. Now there's a second worker action up here at the top. We'll just take this off for now. And in this example, I have to use a scientist and spend a water. But then when I place my worker there, I can place a breakthrough on this space. And when I do, I gain 2 victory points. Let's go over the rules about placing the breakthroughs there real quickly. So let's say I place that one. That's a circle with the military symbol. I can place another breakthrough there as long as it is a different shape. So these are the same military symbol, but they're different shapes. So that's okay. So I could place this, but I could not place this, even though I think this is a genetic symbol. Even though the symbol's different because they're both circles, I couldn't hold that there. So this can hold up to 3 different breakthroughs because, of course, there's only 3 different shapes. And so each time you place your worker there, you place a breakthrough. Again, it's considered spent. You never get it back. It remains there for the rest of the game. And then you get 2 victory points when you do that. And again, during the cleanup phase, that worker is retrieved as normal. Now let's take a look at some of these other exosuit upgrade boards because, as I said, they are asymmetrical by default. So we'll look at the Path of Harmony. The Path of Harmony here, you got this worker action down here. But instead of titanium, titanium, 1 uranium, and then gold, gold, you have any resource for these 4 outside spots, but they're only +2 exosuit power instead of +3. And then the middle section can only take a neutronium, and that's +4 power. So only a total of 12 potential exosuit power there, whereas there's 15 here, but these are, of course, much more flexible. And then the sensors action at the top, you must place a scientist just like this, but instead of spending a water, you spend a gold. You can place your breakthrough, and then for each breakthrough that's there, instead of gaining 2 victory points, you gain another +2 power. So you could potentially get up to 18 power from this exosuit board. And then we'll check the Path of Dominance next. So the Path of Dominance, by default, starts with +2 exosuit power. So that's important to know. And then this action, instead of any worker being able to take it, it must be an engineer. Then we see there's 2 spots for titanium, which are worth 2 exosuit power each, 2 spots for uranium, worth 2 exosuit power each, and 1 spot for neutronium, worth 4 exosuit power. And then on the sensors action, you must place a scientist and spend a gold, and then each time you do that, you gain 2 victory points. So the reward is similar to the Path of Progress, but the cost is similar to the Path of Harmony. And let's take a look at the Path of Salvation. Now this is interesting. Their action down here is actually a free action. You just must spend 1 water, but you can do this and then, take another action afterwards. So that's pretty cool. And they have 1 spot here for titanium worth 3 exosuit power, 1 spot for uranium worth 3 exosuit power, and 2 spots for neutronium worth 4 exosuit power each. And then the sensors action, the Path of Salvation can send any worker. It doesn't have to be a scientist like these other paths, but they must spend 1 basic resource when they do that. Then they place their breakthrough tile and gain 2 victory points when they place the tile. And lastly, we'll look at the Fractures of Time expansion faction here, the Path of Unity. So they start with 1 exosuit power by default, and then they can send any worker to this bottom action, and they have some of the same flexibility that we saw over here. They can put any resource, and there's 4 spots for those, and they're worth 2 exosuit power each, and then 1 spot in the middle that can only take a flux core, and that is a maximum of 1 flux core. But when you place a flux core there, you gain 3 power for your exosuit. And then when taking the sensor action, the Path of Unity must send a scientist and spend a water, then place a breakthrough and gain a flux core. So now we've talked about how to power up your suit and how to improve the sensors, but we haven't talked about what that can do yet. So let's get to this sideboard here. This is the main part of the expansion. This is the adventure board, and there's a hex pool space here. And so on your turn, there's an action now where you can go adventuring, and this is the symbol for adventuring. So you place your mech on this hex pool, and as a reminder, a hex pool can hold unlimited mech suits or exosuits, so any number of players can be there and can have any number of suits, and this action can be taken by any worker type, and there is no benefit to sending one worker or another. And then as soon as you take that action, take one of your path markers and you place it on the highest unoccupied circle here. So there's a space here that says +2 power, then +1 power, 0 power, -1 power, and that's it for the circles. So once all of these are covered, you don't need to place a path marker anymore, but just know that you're going to gain -3 power. So I'll talk about this in a little more detail in a second. But now that we've placed our suit here, you're going to pick one of these two decks to go adventuring. And so for this +5 or 5+ deck, you spend 1 water, and for the 10+ deck, you spend 2 water, and then you draw a card. All right, so let's say we did the +5. We've got this one here. Now you're going to see on this card, it has this exosuit power symbol on the bottom, and this one happens to say 9. So in order to be successful on this adventure, you need to have 9 or more exosuit power. So you add up all the power that you have from down here, plus if you have any starting exosuit power or exosuit power from your sensors up here, make sure you include that. So add up all your exosuit power, then add in wherever you placed your path marker. So it starts out being a bonus, +2, +1. This gives you no additional power. Then you lose 1 power, and then after that, after this has been taken 4 times, every time somebody goes here, it's -3 power, -3 power. But you add up, again, this power, any other power you've got from your exosuit upgrade board there, and then finally you roll the adventure die. Now this is just a standard D6, so it's from 1 to 6 with a regular distribution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it'll always be positive. So you roll it, and we've got a 3. So then you add that power level as well. And if your power level meets or exceeds this number, then you're successful. And when you're successful, you gain the card permanently for the rest of the game. You place it by your player board. Some of them will have a one-time effect. Boy, there we go. Okay, so most of them actually will have a one-time effect here on the left. There's a thumbs up. So this one, if you're successful, this would give you 2 uranium and 2 victory points. Some of them may have ongoing rewards. So this one gives you a free action, so you can place your path marker there, once per era, and spend a water to gain 1 of any resource. Now, if your exosuit power does not meet or exceed the number on the bottom of the card, then you fail. So there's this thumbs down arrow. You have to take the penalty or the instructions. You follow the instructions on the right-hand side. And so you always resolve these as fully as possible from top to bottom. So for example, if you failed this one, you must lose 1 resource of any type and then gain 1 victory point. Now, if you have no resources, you just skip that step and you keep going down, so you still gain the victory point. Same thing with this one. If you were to fail it, you lose 1 energy core if you have one, then you gain a uranium and gain 1 victory point. So it's not all bad, even if you fail. Now, that talked about the power, but we didn't talk about these sensors. So, you draw your card. We'll say this. So again, you add up your power level from here and your power level from here. You have some idea of where you're starting from. But before you roll that adventure die, you draw a card plus 1 additional card for each breakthrough tile you have here. So that can be up to 3 more cards. So let's just say that's the case. And then you can look at each of them, and you are probably going to want to look at the power levels on the bottom and figure out which one you're most confident that you're going to be able to achieve. And then you select one and only one, place the others on the bottom of the deck in any order, and then you roll the adventure die and determine your final power level. And then you check for have we succeeded or not succeeded, and either gain the benefits on the right side or on the left side, or follow the instructions on the right side. And so this one's pretty neat. The benefit is you get a free action to trade with the nomads without having to send an exosuit out to that hex pool space on the main board. Or If you fail, you spend 1 water and then still take 1 trade with the Nomad's action. And then if you fail, the card does not come back to your spot on the player board. It goes to the bottom of the deck. So conceivably, if you can get through the deck, you could see it again. Now, each of these decks is 18 cards, and they are all unique. And then, so these are the 5+ because they will all require at least 5 power, and at most they will require 9 power in order to achieve. So this costs 1 water to draw from this deck, 2 water to draw from this deck. These will take a minimum of 10 exosuit power to achieve, and up to 18. So it's got more power and also twice the range, 5 to 9 or 10 to 18. So this reminder card here is telling you how many cards in each of the stack require what power level. So the stack on the left, there are 3 cards that require 5 exosuit power, 3 cards that require 6, and then 4 cards each that require 7, 8, and 9 exosuit power. And the stack on the right, there are 3 cards that require 10 exosuit power, 2 cards that require 11, 3 cards that require 12, 3 that require 13, 2 for 14, 2 for 15, 2 for 16, and 1 for 18 exosuit power. And as you may imagine, the rewards for this stack are better than the rewards for this stack. And then again, there's this endgame condition card. This is checking who has the most adventure cards by their player area. So how many successful adventures, and then 3 victory points for each of those players. So to recap this adventure action real quick, you start by sending any worker type in an exosuit to this hex pool space. Place your path marker at the highest available circle, or if all of these circles are taken, you're going to get -3 exosuit power, so know that. Then spend 1 water to draw from the 5 or more stack, 2 water to draw from the 10 or more stack. You cannot mix or match, you've got to pick a stack. So spend your water and then draw 1 card plus 1 card for each breakthrough on your sensor upgrade action, so up to 3 more cards. Look at them, determine which one you want to attempt, put the others back on the bottom of the deck in any order, then you roll the adventure die and you add that number to whatever power you have from your exosuit upgrade board and wherever you placed your path marker here, and that determines whether you're successful or not. If you meet or exceed whatever it says on the bottom of the card, then follow the instructions on the left side. If you do not meet or exceed this number, then you follow the directions on the right side as fully as possible from top to bottom. So now let me talk about solo play for a moment. So we'll talk about how this integrates with the Chronosis. So we'll need our Chronosis board here. And the Chronosis, again, is going to gain an exosuit upgrade board. And you can choose to add in this solo objective card, which would give you 1 victory point if you have 6 completed adventures, 2 victory points for 9 adventures, and 4 victory points for 12 adventures. And then you'll take the C03 action tile and place it in this spot number 3 as usual. So again, the A side is to gain a power core, and the B side is to gain a power core and then advance to the next spot. So you can choose which side you want based off difficulty, the A side being less difficult. Oh, whoopsie, I'm sorry though. This goes in the 1 spot, not the 3 spot. Tile C02 goes in the 3 spot, so there the Chronosis just gains 2 victory points on the A side, or gains 2 victory points and a power core on the B side. And then place action tile C09 on the 2 spot, so that you can see has the adventure action icon on it on the A side. The B side is going to be the adventure action plus 1 victory point, so you can choose the side that you want. And then we're actually going to add a 4th tile. So there's C10, where again, A is the adventure action and the B side is adventure plus a power core. And you're going to place it right here. So it's covering up this action space where normally the Chronosis would do a recruit action if there's a genius, and if there's not a genius, then they would do a breakthrough. So you're going to cover that spot with C10. And again, A side or B side, depending on the difficulty level you're looking for. And then when the Chronosis lands on one of those 2 spaces and selects the adventure action, there's 2 steps, and you go in order, and sometimes you can't perform a step, so then you just skip it and go to the next part. So the first step is to perform an adventure. So you're going to look at the Chronosis's exosuit power board here, which you can see I've got the A side right now. I'll talk about the other side in a minute. But the A side starts with +2 exosuit power, and then there could be more power from adding different resources here, and we'll talk about this bottom piece as well. But you look at this board, you add up all of their power, and of course, you're going to place an exosuit on this hex pool spot, and the Chronosis places a path marker just like you would. So you're going to look at all the power here, plus whatever power from wherever they place their path marker, just like you. And if that number is 9 or higher, then the Chronosis will draw 2 cards from this deck. Otherwise, if that number is below 9, they'll draw 2 cards from this deck. Then you will roll the adventure die, and the Chronosis will, and you add that into the total power level that Chronosis has, and the Chronosis will take whichever card has the highest exosuit power requirement that it meets. So if it meets or exceeds both numbers, it'll just take the highest number. If it only meets one requirement, it'll take that card, and then it's possible it won't meet either card. So whichever card is not selected, just put it at the bottom of the correct deck, wherever it came from. If neither card was selected, place them both to the bottom of the deck in any order, and Chronosis gains 1 victory point. But if it did earn a card, the Chronosis is going to head and gain whatever benefits it can from the left side of the card, and then it will just set the card aside. It won't use it anymore the rest of the game, but it's no longer available for you to get, so don't put it back in the stack. And then regarding the card's benefits, there's some special cases. So instead of receiving a water, it gets 1 victory point for every 2 water, and you round up. It gets 2 victory points for every morale increase that it would receive, because of course the Chronosis does not have a morale track. So every time morale would increase, 2 victory points. Whenever it would be given a choice between researching, recruiting, or constructing, it's always going to choose to research, and it's kind of easy to remember that because you're covering up this breakthrough action here with this tile. So it's always going to default to doing the research action. And then as we looked at before, some of these cards have ongoing benefits. Let me find one. Of course, I had like 10 of them, and now I can't find one. There we go. So these ongoing benefits are marked in a purple box, as opposed to this is just like the same color box, but these are highlighted in purple, so those are ongoing. So if the Chronosis ever gains a card with an ongoing benefit, it still discards the card, but it gains 3 victory points and an energy core. So a couple of special cases there. And that's the perform adventure step. So after doing that, you go to the power upgrade step. So then it takes 1 resource from its board and moves it to an exosuit upgrade board. And so you're going to look at whatever resources it has here on the board. You're going to start from the bottom. So if it had a titanium and this titanium space is empty, you take the titanium from there and move it to there. So that's how it's going to upgrade its power here. If there was no titanium here, or if this spot already had a titanium, then it would move up the list and try and grab the next one. And the iconography is a little bit confusing. Use the order that's on the Chronosis board: titanium first, then gold, then uranium, then neutronium. I don't know why the gold and uranium are in a different order here. That's a little bit confusing, but go this way. So again, if Chronosis doesn't have a titanium, or if the titanium spot is full, move up to gold. Can it take a gold and place a gold? If yes, do it. If no, go to uranium. And again, if no, go to neutronium. Or I guess, I'm sorry, let me back up. There's one more check you should do. So first you got to look at what's empty, and it has to have an available resource. So if it's only got one thing, obviously that's what you take. But then the next most important factor is, does it have more than one of anything? Whatever it's got the most of, it'll try and place that next. Then if it's tied, then you go in this order here. Sorry for that roundabout explanation. So one more time, just for clarity, it's got to pick a resource that it has an available slot for on its board, and it has the resource on its main Chronosis board. If there's more than one option, it'll pick whichever resource it has the most of, and then if there's still a tie, it'll work from top to bottom on the Chronosis board, from titanium up to gold, then uranium, and neutronium last. Now, if Chronosis does not have any resources, or if there are no available slots, or if there's just not one that it can place, then instead you're going to take a victory point token and place it under this board, and every victory point token here gives it 2 more power, and it can hold any number of tokens. And so let me recap again real quick. If you land on one of these 2 spaces, first Chronosis is going to take an exosuit, place it on the pool space, then place a path marker on the next available space here. Then you're going to add up the total power level from here. Again, the A side starts with 2. Check for any of these resources. They add titanium adds 2 power, uranium adds 3, gold adds 3, neutronium adds 4, and then any victory point tokens will add 2 each. So figure out its total power level. If it's 9 or above, you draw 2 cards from this stack. If it's less than 9, 2 cards from this stack. Roll the adventure die, and then the Chronosis takes whichever card has the highest requirement that it meets. In the event of a tie, by the way, there's no directions in the rule book, but I would randomize it. I would just lay the two cards next to each other. The first one's odds, the second one's evens. I would just re-roll this die and then randomize it that way. And then whichever card it does not select, or if it fails the requirements for both, then it takes whichever cards it does not successfully meet and places on the bottom of the deck. Whichever card it does take, if it does take one, gain all the rewards on the left with a couple of notable exceptions, and then just keep it near Chronosis' board. It won't interact with it again, but you cannot gain that card. And if Chronosis cannot gain either of the cards, then it gains one victory point. Then it tries to power up its suit, again looking at what resources does it have and what slots are available. Of the available options, it will pick whichever resource it has the most of on its board, and if there's a tie, then it will work from bottom to top on this board to place one here. If there are no resources it can place, because either it doesn't have any or because there's no available slots, then place one victory point token and that'll gain it 2 power. So if you want to make this more difficult, you can flip either of these action tiles here to their B side. You can also flip this Exosuit power-up board to its B side. So Chronosis starts with 3 power, and then these will give it 3, 4, 4, and 5. Again, this was 2, 3, 3, and 4, so they're all an additional power. The victory points will give it an additional 3 power as well. And then importantly, in standard play with Pioneers of New Earth and Chronosis, these victory point tokens do not actually count for victory points at the end of the game, but if you want to increase the difficulty, then you count them. So these tokens just merely serve as counters for extra power, but if you want to up the difficulty, count them for victory points as well. So I believe now I have covered everything. That's what you need to know to play the Pioneers of New Earth module introduced in the Classic Expansion Pack for Anachrony. And if you would like to see it in action, alongside this video, I am releasing a solo playthrough where I play Anachrony against Chronosis using the Pioneers of New Earth module. So I will put a link at the end of this video. So if you are still here and you found this helpful, please consider subscribing and liking the video and sharing it with anybody else who you want to play Pioneers of New Earth with and you want them to learn how to play in advance. And as always, feel free to leave any questions that you have in the comments, and I will do my very best to get you some good answers. Or, of course, feel free to comment if you have any other thoughts on Pioneers of New Earth that you'd like to share. But that is it for this video. I will see you in the playthrough, I imagine. So wish me luck and have yourself a great week. See you in the next video. Take it easy.